Hello everybody and welcome back to Full House Sports here with myself Charlie. A reminder before the video starts to please like, please comment and please subscribe. Anything you guys do is greatly appreciated as always. Right, just wanted to do a quick video reacting to the news because unfortunately the end of the third Ashes test sort of means the rugby league season goes a little bit into sleep mode, I guess. We've got Union to keep us interested, and as anyone who follows the channel knows, I love my Union as well. But on the back of the Ashes series, I think there's a real appetite and a real interest spike that needs to be grasped by the English Rugby League authorities. And we've already seen that to an extent because season ticket sales, I think, are on the up for a lot of clubs. We've seen that. Lee Leopards have put out their figures today. Hulk ARs as well are obviously on the up. You'd expect that. I saw York Knights as well. I think London Broncos are on the up. There's a lot of clubs that are on the up. And as well, it was interesting to see that the talk of the Ashes has meant that people are saying, is it going to happen again? Well, by the looks of it, it looks like in 2077, we're not going to have our old friends from Oz up to England, but instead it's going to be their next door neighbours, the Kiwis, who are going to come up apparently for a 3-match tour in 2027 of England before England head out to 2028 to Australia for a reverse Ashes series. Now, this is quite interesting, I think, because it's going to be interesting 2 years' time how England look, for starters. And I know I sort of put out the sort of an obituary of English Rugby League the other day on the channel, saying that I thought they were in trouble. I do think it's interesting for 2 reasons. One, I'm surprised that after what's happened in the Pacific Nations Championship, and as well sort of how the Aussies looked in the Ashes, I'm surprised there hasn't been more, not more of a push, but more, I think there's quite an appetite for an Australia-New Zealand series. I'd certainly watch it. I think it'd be absolutely brilliant. I think New Zealand are favourites for the World Cup now. I really do, which sounds outrageous to say because 18 months ago you wouldn't have been saying that. And I think it's interesting for English Rugby League because, listen, there's a lot of different things. I'm sort of going to go off on a tangent here, as I always seem to do, but there's a lot of things I think could be done to help English Rugby League and the English Rugby League national team. I'm not sure a 3-match series against New Zealand, who at that time could be world champions, is for the best. We've seen what they've done to Samoa. We've seen what they've done to Tonga. I think they'd do the same to England quite convincingly. And listen, 2 years' time, you can't look into a crystal ball. But I, for one, thought that it had an Australia-New Zealand series written all over it. And England could potentially have the best of the rest over. Samoa, Tonga, Papua New Guinea, France. There's a lot of different things. My other theory is that not my other theory. My other thing is I don't want to constantly be moaned on the channel about English Rugby League. I want to sort of come up with some positives. So I was sort of doing some thinking and I was like, well, what could be done? And I sort of had a look and I thought, well, here's a few different things. So for one, I think they need to bring back the mid-season test against France. Now, people saying, yeah, but we always batter France. Well, unfortunately, I think Australia and New Zealand at the minute are going to batter us most of the time. So we're sort of in that awkward limbo. I think France, with 2 Super League clubs, will potentially start to see, in the next 5 years' time, an increase in quality. And I think not playing them in a mid-season test would be foolish because we need that. We showed against Australia, we need that practice. We need that match practice. So even if you use them to use your combinations, I know people say it's a waste of time, but it's not a waste of time if you want to compete with New Zealand, Australia, and the other nations in and around that area. Another thing I saw doing the rounds, and one thing, a guy commented on my video the other day, was England should maybe come over and play some NRL sides. I think it'd be interesting, but I don't think it would happen purely because I think the people running the RFL are too proud to admit that we might need that level of help. You know, it's a bit of an ostrich mentality of putting our heads in the sand. The other thing that could, I think, work is, and a guy was commenting this on my video the other day, is potentially a 4 nations with Wales, Scotland, Ireland. Yes, you'd expect us to win that quite convincingly, but you never know. What we could do with them is what potentially Australia and the NRL have done with the Pacific nations, which is building them up, finding these players who have got it on heritage, potentially with an expansion as well into these nations with franchises. That would be interesting to see if the NRL Europe takes off and you have a team in Dublin or a team in Wales. You know, that could potentially increase their quality anyway, so that would be quite interesting to see. And another thing I saw was something that I forgot it even happened actually, was I think in 2011, the fact that England played an international origin side. Now, I think that is a really fun idea. The idea that England could play a sort of Super League All-Stars team in a mid-season test. If they're not going to play France, play them. Some of the players, we've all know the qualities of the likes of Bevan French. Obviously, I know Warrea-Hargreaves has gone now, but someone like him would have been ideal for that side. You've got these quality international players. Play England against them. Get them used to that level. Now, I know sometimes these invitational teams don't always work. We've seen that in rugby union. But I just think that would be an idea on how to build England back up. Rather than just chucking them in constantly to 3-match series against Australia and New Zealand and getting, I think, swept quite easily. Just a few ideas, like I say, on how to rebuild it. I think it should be quite interesting to see what happens. International Rugby League seems to be on the rise, which is fantastic to see. But it'll be interesting to see what the powers that be decide to do with it. As always, guys, thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a great day. Thank you very much. Like, comment and subscribe. Have a good one.